Good evening. Goodbye Forever by Ngak'chang Rinpoche. Chapter 8, Part 3. I often talked with Steve about the knife edge of my home situation, and so he was naturally edgy about what my father might do, especially with regard to Annalie, should I ever be found out. I departed from Steve's house, and there, right on cue, was Annalie, waiting just at the turning to the avenue on which Steve lived. "Vic! Hello, I was just laughing to myself about the dong with the luminous nose from Edward Lear and the poem you read to me. I have the copy in my handbag." Annalie called out to me from the car window. "When we get back, I still have the one duty of piano. Then I will be free. All day and all of the night," she laughed, quoting the Kink song. "I'm not content to be with you in the daytime. Girl, I want to be with you all of the time. The only time I feel alright is by your side. Girl, I want to be with you all of the time, all day and all of the night." Nice one, Annalie. You're getting the idea really well. Annalie had picked up my habit of quoting rock songs. She enjoyed it because it helped her with her vernacular English, and she was getting quick at it. "Maybe if we listen to Bob Dylan again and you help me understanding the words." "With pleasure, anything to make a lady happy. You know me." Annalie laughed and poked me in the ribs in the way that she had. "Happy comes later after Bob Dylan," she laughed, and I reclined in the passenger seat with a millionaire's grin. We got back to the house and I was whisked into the granny annex, and, as usual, no one seemed to notice me. Inside of the main house, and someone would have had to have been keeping watch for me to have been seen. Of course, there was no problem with Annalie having guests. It was just a matter of when they left, and so come Monday morning I'd have to lie low on the back seat with my coat over as much of me as could be managed. It always felt a little like those World War II movies where someone's being smuggled past the Nazi guards on their way to the Swiss border or wherever. I told Annalie about that, and the image made her laugh. It occurred to me that she was being as dishonest as I was. Me about my age, and her about her overnight guest. So, in that, we were equal. She never questioned me about my parents, and I never questioned her about her employers. There were better things to talk about, such as stuck inside of Mobile with the Memphis Blues again. "Why not put it on and I'll scribble the words down, then you can ask me about the things that don't make sense to you." We listened to the song several times whilst I wrote as rapidly as I was able. So, first is this. The post office has been stolen and the mailbox is locked. Well, the first thing that comes to mind about that is, I stretched my legs out to get comfortable, is that communication is impossible. Letters can't be sent and they can't be handled or delivered. Yes, I see this, but how is the post office stolen? Well, it's impossible to steal a post office, so that probably suggests that things have got as bad as they can get, if not worse. Of course, he tells you the post office has been stolen first, so adding that the mailbox is locked is almost superfluous, but it adds the final seal to stuck inside of Mobile. Yes, and then can I ask, why inside of Mobile rather than just in Mobile? There you've got me. Maybe it was just a matter of what would scan, but inside of does sound more trapped than in. It sounds as if Mobile might even be like an engine or something. You know, a car is an automobile, so maybe Mobile feels like some huge horrible machine. Also, Mobile is probably just the city name he's using because of how that name sounds. The song might have nothing to do with Mobile, but with a state of mind. Annalie was busy making notes, and as always it made me grin and remind her that it felt strange that she was taking what I said so seriously. You make me feel like some kind of college professor, which is really quite, well, as long as you're happy, I'll do my best. Just remember that Dylan might not mean anything like how I'm interpreting him. All the railroad men drink your blood like wine, Annalie commented. This seems simple. It seems to mean that they will exploit you. Yes, that works. But then he just smoked my eyelids and punched my cigarette. That's really beyond me, I think. Although, if you reversed it, he just punched my eyelids and smoked my cigarette. That could then mean being beaten up and robbed. But I think that would be taking it a bit too far. You know, Annalie, sometimes this stuff is just surreal. And I know that because when I write, sometimes I just get a line that works and I have no idea why. Ah, yes, this you see in surrealist paintings. I always forget that it can be the same way with the words. Maybe you just tell me when you think it is surreal. That would make it easier. I'll try my best with interpretation, though, when it seems as if I can do that, or have a stab at it, at least. Have a stab at it? Annalie questioned. That means trying, going for it, giving it my best shot. Ah, yes. So then, he built a fire on Main Street and shot it full of holes. I love that image. I imagine some frontier town, a place where you could drag some wood and build a fire before anyone got round to stopping you. Then you'd stand there with a crazed look on your face, emptying your gun into it. It's a powerful image, and I guess Grandpa's lost control. Maybe there you have to look at the whole verse about people being shocked. And of course, Grandpa's already buried in the rock. So maybe this is some really tough old timer, railing against trespasses on his freedom. I think there's a lot of empathy for the Old West, and maybe Grandpa's some hippie from the end of the 1800s, and he's become a symbol of something that's happening now. And then the next verse does not seem so difficult, but then here, the preacher looked so baffled when I asked him why he dressed with 20 pounds of headlines stapled to his chest. That sounded fairly simple to me, so I ploughed right in. I'd say 20 pounds of headlines stapled to his chest was just another way of saying that the preacher was crippled by the indoctrination he'd accepted. Ah, yes, I can see this now. So £20 of headlines is the newspapers and the misinformation they often have. And stapled means that he can't get it out of his mind. That's what I'd say. Good. So the Rain Man gave men 2 cures, Texas medicine and railroad gin, and he mixed them. His mind is strangled, and people get uglier. He has no sense of time. I burst out laughing at that point. Sorry, Annalie, I have to give up on that one. I have no idea what a Rain Man might be. I hear him singing ragman, which might be another word for a hobo or tramp, but Texas medicine and railroad gin, no idea other than that he had 2 extremely bad alternatives and made the mistake of trying them both at the same time. So again, the next verse is not so hard, but then, you must know about my debutante, and she says, your debutante knows just what you need, but I know what you want. Well, you know what a debutante is? I asked, and Annalie nodded. So it seems unlikely that he's in a position to know one of those. So maybe it's simply a reversal of images, as a debutante would probably be more inclined to want than need. When you're poor, you usually need rather than want. Wanting tends to come later. Yeah, Annalie laughed. Soon we are finished. Then needing and wanting can all happen. So, who are the neon madmen? The rest is simple. The neon madmen? No idea. You know, Annalie, I think Dylan sometimes just throws these images in for the colour and for their incongruity. Then there's simply the sound of the words, and of course that probably applies to a lot of the phrases that I've interpreted. Annalie finished writing her notes on Bob Dylan's song, and we tumbled into the night. The days and weeks rolled by, and then suddenly, as if it were entirely unexpected, Annalie was gone. Gone, gone, gone beyond. Gone completely beyond. She was gone permanently, sans adresse. That's the way she wanted it. I could see the sense of it from her point of view. Annalie was a strange mixture of romanticism and pragmatism. She was evidently sad to leave me behind, but she knew that our lives could no longer coincide. She had career plans in Switzerland. I had art school ahead, even though it was 2 years later than she imagined. I also had a blues band who relied on me for vocals, and so there was no realistic space for trips to Switzerland. That was how it had been arranged from the beginning, and there was no way to change what we'd arranged. I'd agreed to the temporary nature of our liaison, and it would have been both doltish and churlish to complain when the end became a reality. I'd been an adult, and now I was something else, with 2 months wanting for my 16th birthday. Stephen Ron had mentioned the need of a percussionist. I was less bothered, but happy to go along with the idea, as long as it didn't intrude into the ethos we had evolved as a trio. I'd hardly settled to the idea that we needed a percussionist when Jack Hackman turned up. He'd entered Farnham Grammar School that year because his parents had moved from Wiltshire. Steve came to know Jack was a drummer in the usual way, as music was everyday conversation in the 1960s. Jack could perform fancy drum rolls on the school desk with improvised drumsticks, and Steve concluded he was worthy of an introduction. Jack has a weird hairstyle, but he seems competent. I think we should try him out. I thought that was good, but Ron was wary. I hope he didn't get the idea we'll take him on just like that. We need to be able to tell him if he's not good enough. Steve looked a little put out. Well, naturally, Ron. He knows he's coming for a tryout. Well, I chimed in, when do we put Jack to the rack? Jack came. We launched into rolling and tumbling. Jack played along. Ron frowned. Steve and I looked sheepish when we noticed Ron's expression. Ron, with the expression of an exasperated parent, motioned for Jack to leave his drums. Ron motioned Steve and I to play, so I hit out a simple 12-bar on Ron's Telecaster. Ron then proceeded to show Jack how to play blues percussion. After a few rounds of 12-bar, Ron handed the drumsticks back to Jack, asking, "Can you do that?" Jack nodded and complied. He stumbled a few times, but after a couple of minutes he had it down. It was an arduously difficult audition for Jack, who looked highly anxious throughout, but Ron accepted him in the end, on the condition that he put in a great deal of serious practice. Suddenly, we were a band. Suddenly, we needed a name. We spent an evening brainstorming it, and we ended up with the Savage Cabbage Blues Band.